Happy Christmas, everybody. Here we are, Christmas Day, and I thought I would record a special message for you all. I hope you've had lots of presents that you like. I hope you sat there with all your favourite albums and memorabilia, or your jazz rock box sets, sitting there happy. Or maybe not. You know, maybe you just got some deodorant and socks. But here we are on Christmas Day 2021. We're going through strange times in terms of music and art and creatively, also culturally and socially. But also for me personally, this year has been interesting in that I created this YouTube. So my YouTube channel has actually been going since 2014. But this year I decided to really put the effort in and start creating this sort of content where I talk about music, I talk about the music I like. It's been very, very interesting to me, and I really want to talk about that a little bit, and then talk a little bit about what I think's going on in the world of music and art. And those two things relate together to me in a way. But going back to the creation of this channel, you know, when I first created it, it was really a vehicle for me to put my drum videos up. I'm a professional musician, and I'm also a music teacher. You know, my main job is actually teaching music now. In the past, I have earned my living touring and recording. And those of you who don't know, you know, I started off in the early 90s playing in the Bhangra scene, which is a UK Indian music scene. That was the first sort of proper stuff I ever did. Then I played in a variety of tribute bands and covers bands. But then I was very lucky to land the gig with Robert Plant, and I spent about 2 or 3 years with Robert Plant touring with him. And then after that I joined a blues guitarist called Ian Parker, toured with him. And then I started working with progressive rock artists, and I think that's what I'm sort of known. If I'm known for anything, it's for working with, you know, bands like IQ and Frost, and I'm currently in a progressive rock band called Rain. And because of that, you know, you have to have sort of social media, and you have YouTubes and Facebooks, and you know, I was for a long time, you know, just using those sort of networks to create, you know, and but maintain my position as a professional musician, so people could contact me, see who I was and what I did. Last year when the lockdown happened, for fun, I decided to rank the Mavish Nookshams, and I did that because I was bored. One day I got up and I was bored, and I was thinking, you know, how would I rank the Mavish Nookshams? I'd seen a video where someone had done that. It was my great friends over at Sea of Tranquility, actually, where I've done a few videos for them over the years where we've ranked different albums. And I thought, well, I'm going to do my Mavish Nookshams because that's my favourite band, and I did, and I put it up. And a few months later I looked down and I thought, this is getting thousands and thousands of views, and it's doing it without me doing anything. I didn't, you know, set out for that to happen. But looking at it, I thought that was interesting. So in May this year, I started to create this sort of content. Now, it's been a very slow process. You know, those of you who are watching, you know, we have created a little bit of a community here. You know, there's people who come back every time I put a video up, and they put comments up, and I thank you for that. This is why I'm still here doing it, because I think there's only a few of you who do that, but those of you who have, you know, I appreciate it so much, and it's kept me going. And I think I'd had around about 100 subscribers, you know, but a few days ago I just went over the 700 subscribers limit. It's growing very slowly, but it's growing exponentially. Now, I'm not just doing it for the subscribers and the views. What's been very interesting for me is, as a professional musician, I've always had to work in whatever area came along. You know, if I get offered a covers gig, then I'm playing those covers. If I'm in a folk band, and I've played loads of folk music over the years, and I'm playing in a folk band, you know, playing that sort of stuff. With this channel, I started to talk about the music I really love myself, you know, what I'm really into. And it brought a whole bunch of people to me that are interested in the same music as me. That's been very, very interesting for me, you know, and it started to make me think about what I do in a different way. Now, how does this relate to what's going on the wider scheme of things? Well, as we know, the virus and the lockdowns has really hit our industry heavily, All right. So we sat here, obviously this is not Christmas Day. This is a few days before Christmas Day. As we're watching this, we may find ourselves in a lockdown. But just as we thought we were out of this situation, just as we thought we could get back to gigging normally, we've been hit with another problem. Now, I currently play in a band called Quill. Quill's been out of action for 2 years. You cannot imagine how damaging that is for a band. But this year, coming back to gigging at the latter part of this year, we've found still that the audiences have been lower than we expected. And I don't blame them. I think after 2 years of doing this, we are now getting used to operating in a different way, right? I can remember when the coronavirus thing first started up, I went to an event and everyone was crammed in the room. Even though it was on the news and everyone was talking about coronavirus, and it was just a couple of days before lockdown, but everyone was quite happily crammed in a room. I think now we have learnt to think differently about it. And I sometimes wonder whether this is going to change the sort of live performance world long term, or at least long enough to really do it some damage. I wonder whether there'll be gigs next year, or if there are gigs, whether people will come. If they do come, when they will have to get into sort of COVID passports and all that type of thing. So that worries me a lot. But the other thing that's happened with the music business is that we have all had to move on to the internet. So we've started to rely on that a lot more. Obviously, people are now posting a lot more videos. This channel has come about because I was sat around with nothing to do, And as much as I would love to post up videos of me playing, out of this unknowingly, this has happened. This world of me talking to camera. And that's been quite interesting for me, because you've got to understand, most of my life has been spent, as well as being a drummer and a musician, but also as a teacher. And I've been talking about this stuff and lecturing about this stuff for 30 years. So that skill of talking about music and being interested about music and how it works and how the styles of music work together, and also being a champion for jazz, which I have been for the last 30 years. I think if I've got any students watching this, they will all know that if they like jazz, it was most likely because I rammed it down their throat when they were at college. I think there's at least a few who will say that, And so this skill, I suppose, I've developed over the years to be able to sit down and talk about stuff, I suddenly found I could use it here, and that's really interesting to me. And it's interesting because I haven't done it before, right? So as much as the whole COVID coronavirus thing has damaged the industry, it's also pushed us to think in different ways. So here we are at the back end of 2021, and I'm finding that this here, me talking to you about music like this, is becoming more interesting to me than going out and gigging and playing. And I'm about to make a change, I think, next year. I'm going to pull a lot of that in. A lot of the stuff I'm doing in bands, especially in terms of live performance, I have decided to pull in. And the reason is because I want to create some space to start to think about how I can utilise this and carve something out here. I think any musician who ends up working in this, like me, we never set out to do this. I actually started out as an artist. I wanted to be a painter. I did fine art at college. When I finished college, I sort of thought, how do I use this and get a job out of this? And I ended up being sort of a graphic designer. This is years and years ago, before computers. So I ended up as a paste-up artist, basically. And I worked as a graphic designer. But the whole time I was doing music. And the music just took over. I'm here not because I made a decision to become a musician. The music grabbed me and it took me here. I had no choice but to follow. I eventually lost that job because my boss came in and he said, I've been told I've got to get rid of someone, and I'm going to get rid of you because I know you don't want to be here. You want to go off and do your music. And even though I'd just been sacked, in effect, or made redundant, as I walked out that office with no real future, I got in my car with a sense of relief, because that was the point where I thought, right, now I can just get home and hammer and do music, which is what I did. And when you do music, it's like you put a flag up, because when you're a musician, what you do says something about who you are. It's like saying, this is me and this is who I am. And that flag flutters and it attracts people to it. Right? It can't help it. You just put your hand up. This is what I'm doing. Hi, this is what I'm doing. And it attracts like-minded people to you. And those like-minded people become your network. You know, so often in this business, people say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It is, but it's really important who you know, right? Those aren't just acquaintances. They're your buddies, they're your friends. They're the ones that are looking out for you. You know, so often someone gets hired not because they're the best person to do it, but because they can do it, and the people know they're a nice, decent person and they're a mate. People want to hang out with their friends. So with the arts of music, it's so important to put your hand up and wave and say, here I am. All right? You form a band, you get out and play. And again, when you get out and play, to start off with, when you're not making any money, you're basically turning up somewhere, you know, and you're putting your hand up and go, this is what we do. Hi, this is what we do. And if you're a band starting out and you're gigging, and you go down to some bar or pub somewhere and you play to 20 people, right? If one person comes up to the end of that gig and says, I love what you did, that is a success. Right? Because you've got one person that likes what you do. And the key to being a musician is taking that one person there and really looking after them. At the beginning, you really look after those people, because those people are going to take you to the next stage of more people. That one person, next time you go down that bar, they're going to bring 5 people down. And they're going to bring 5 people who they reckon might like this music. Suddenly you've got 5 people. And the next time you go down, each of those 5 people have brought 5 people, and suddenly you've got 20 people in that bar that love what you do. And the bar looks around and goes, wow, this band, they love what they do here, right? It's a secret of music, is to keep going and not give up. It's a secret of music to keep going and learn by your mistakes. But what's very important, the point I want to make, is about putting your hand up and going, hi, here I am. Now, I think as a musician, you need to do that over and over again. You can't just keep going, because we change. We're creative people. We want to do different stuff. Now, something I didn't account for when I started creating these YouTube videos, that what I've been doing on this YouTube video is put my hand up and go, here, this is me. This is what I like. This is the music I like. This is what I am interested in. And, you know, I've spent a lifetime listening to it, reading about it, studying it, you know, and I might have an interesting opinion about it. I'm pretty sure that the people who come to watch these videos, it's not like they don't know about this. They know as much as me. I know you all know as much as me about all this. But I think you're interested in hearing the opinion. You're interested in going, oh, I agree with that, or I don't agree with that. But there's a fun in music in doing that. Because what music really does is, music basically is a way of measuring what we like and what we don't like, right? And that's always up for negotiation, okay? And if you take with 2 people like a band, that's great. You have a connection. Then you go, what's my favourite album? And they go, well, my favourite album by the Mavish Nocturne is In a Mountain of Flame. And then I come along, I think it's Birds of Fire. Then people go, it's not, it's In a Mountain of Flame, it's more raw, it's more punk, you know, it's all aggressive and it's just made on the spot. It's the first time they did it. And I go, yeah, but Birds of Fire is so much more sophisticated, you know, and it's broader in its vocabulary. And those two, that discussion there, which is about the sort of visceral and the intellectual, you know, these two things fighting against each other, we can have a conversation about it. And of course, deep down I'm there thinking, yeah, In a Mountain of Flames probably is the best. It's probably the best album, but, you know, I need to champion the others. And you arrive at a compromise. Well, isn't that surely what we need at this moment in time? Isn't surely we need some sort of compromise, politically, culturally? You know, we've got to stop being at each other's throats, I think. as we exit this year, I think we need to find a way of creating a compromise. And sometimes when you're talking directly about the subjects, especially online, when you're locked down in your house and you haven't been out and you're frustrated, and you just want to get out there but you can't, and then someone's saying something you don't agree with, so you go for the throat, right? That whole way of doing things is not a good way, and it's polarizing us as a culture. We need to be open to new ideas. We've got to stop censoring, what people say and do. We need to listen, and we need to find a way of compromising these views. But as I've explained, the arts and the music, that's an area where we can do that, right? This is just one of the things that makes art and music so important. But music especially is getting bashed at the moment. It really is. And I think culturally, we've swung in a way too far towards perfectionism with music. I've argued elsewhere, go and check the videos out, that I think that, music and art is the balance between hedonism and perfectionism. So, you find in the 1960s, really at the beginning of the civil rights movement, that music is very hedonist. No one's interested in perfectionism. It's about expressing your raw self, right? But we are at the back end of a sort of postmodern era where those ideas have become so dogmatic and ideological that they cannot be questioned. And when you get to that point, you get into the realm of perfectionism. And perfectionism is about everything being ordered and obeying the grid, right? That's culturally where we're at the moment. And actually what happens when you get to that point artistically is these things start to stifle the arts. An example of this would be to look at extreme right-wing art of the Nazis, or extreme left-wing art of the communists. When the Russian Revolution happened, the art of that time that sort of propelled that was very experimental abstract art. But by the time that had become a dogmatic ideology, it had really become something sort of kitsch and rigid, and you had to work within a set of parameters or you got sort of taken out. I feel that that's happening with the arts creatively right at the moment. This is where we're at the moment. We must champion the arts. We must allow people to have their opinions, however difficult and unreasonable they are. We need to listen to people. We need to open our eyes, ears and minds. That's really, really important. If you spot someone arguing against that, don't trust them, right? Because not only will they destroy the arts, but they will destroy what has made us a great species when we're at our best. Tolerance, respecting the individual and respecting their rights and their responsibilities as well. I think these are all things that at the moment are under threat, culturally and creatively. So, what am I doing about it? Absolutely nothing. I'm just sat here with my little YouTube, talking about Weather Report and the Minneman and Mike and bits of prog and stuff like that. But perhaps in doing that, in talking about the music I love, underneath that there is these ideas bubbling away, and they continually crop up for me when I get into these discussions. If you are interested in this, go back and look at some of the videos, because amongst all the jazz, rock and prog videos, you'll see me discussing what is music, what does it do, how do we know it's good. And I think that's a really, really important discussion to have. And that's basically what we're talking about on here. What is good and what makes it good? Think about it. What is good? That's the question we need to ask. If anybody ever is acting like they know what is good, what they know what is right, what they know what is moral, right? Don't trust them. That's my advice on my Christmas video this year. Anyway, been a bit of a ramble. I think this is the first video I have ever done without a subject. I have basically just switched the camera on and rambled at you for 20 minutes. But I hope you like it. Have a happy Christmas, everybody. Respect everybody. Love everybody. You know, keep your mind open. Try and see it from another person's point of view. And if we all do that next year, we should be okay. Thank you very much.